So we thought, knowing Manuele's work, Manuele's film, we thought it was a very interesting way to, to get to know Biella, to get to know a textile, textile industry-based town as Biella. For those of you who were here, you know how it is, you know how it's being there. But for those of you who hasn't been here or can't be here now, it's interesting to see how Biella looks like on one side, but also what it means to be a textile industry town, and what it means also in this specific moment from a historical point of view. So, we thought that it was a nice way of getting to know more about where we are and how all this history somehow influences what we do. So, I will, start with first questions to Emanuele. The idea is that we have a conversation with him. So, for all of you who wants to do questions, just prepare your questions, and then we will find a way to moderate this conversation. So, my first question for Emanuele, of course, is, how was born the idea of the film? Because it's interesting. How did you get to know all these different layers of the history of Biella, which is to know on one. That's one. And the second question is, how was the film received by the actual, by our contemporary textile situation, by the industrials, by the unions here in Biella, by the city? So how was the film, let's say, received? I will start with these two questions, and then we go on with the conversation. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. First of all, sorry for this strange yellow photography and the wrong backlight. I know this is not the best visit card that I can give to you as a director, but this is our boundaries. How is born? One day, me and my team, that is composed by researchers, historian, and filmmaker too, was talking about which are the, we call them pearls, perle, gems. Which are the gems that are under the soil, underground in Biella? Which are the historical facts, which are the best things that happen here? Which are the incredible enrichment the industrial textile here made decade by decade? And obviously there was a very large amount of ideas. One historian, that is the director of the local resistance institution. The resistance in Biella was very active near the 40s, in the WWII too. This historian says to us, we have to speak louder about wonderful things that happened here in the 1944-45, where when first, before the end of the war, the managers of textile industry and the leader of the local resistance meet each other in secret way to sign a pact about how work better together, how keep to produce the best textile product in the world, how to live without starving. because the managers need to keep production high, keep production good, because all know that the war will be won by the UK and the alliance. And then in UK, there was the best after Italian textile products. In UK, there was the best textile products. There was a situation of concorrenza. Juan, can you concorrenza industriale?
Well, I would say competition, Andy.
Competition.
You know, when you know,
the nation.
And actually, Andy lives in one of those areas. One of the areas of the textile industry in the UK. This is part of our link is through this history.
And then in the secret way, without the supervision of Nazi and fascist people, these two parts start to dialogue about a new era of the production of the textile industry, a new era of the social of the nation. Before the end of the war, these people keep talking about work, rights, and good production. So rights, you know, the textile production is a worldwide laboratory of absence of rights. In the Asia, China, India, the textile production is very important dimension, but it's not keep with the rights. Second, the good production. If we talk about textile product in Biella, we have to talk about the luxury product, because this kind of textile product is the only one can keep product is still possible to product today in Biella. And the luxury textile products have to be the best in the world. And third dimension, the future in a new era, without war, with new social dimension, and with a new style of relationship between workers and farmers and industrial managers. Because just in the quality of these relations, it is possible to keep high the quality of textile product. This was a very important fact 7 years ago, and it still remains a very important component of the textile production of this in the Biellese. Without rights, it's impossible to realize very good textile production. So this fact of the during the World War II is still valid until now, and it can keep together two eras and keep together workers and capital, and can assure a high quality textile products until now. It's a film about time, a film about a struggle for the labor rights, and above all, is a film about equal wage, because in the 1944-45, first in Europe, maybe in the world, we don't know, in this pact, it was signed that to equal work is necessary to pay the equal wage, male and female workers. It's for us a incredible statement to starting a film that speak about the Biellese reason why. Till now, how it was keep the film when it was released in Biella around, and in the Piedmont, also in Italy. We know that 4,000-5,000 people see the film in the movies in Biellese, and was all the people that was interested in history, interested in community, or in culture of the Biellese. We know that Biellese managers, Biellese big managers, have seen the film by home in secret. They don't know, don't say to us, wonderful idea, please let me know the film I want to show to my workers. No, it's a sort of understatement. Then we know all the biggest managers in the Biellese see the film, but can keep secret these things. And we can learn one lesson. We think that the differences between workers and capital still live today in a new way, but also today managers are not so happy to speak about this event, this historical fact, because in the 1945-44 there was, as I think, the losers. It was not so, but now they think there was the losers and the workers was the winners. We have not made a film based on these differences. On the contrary, we have tried to demonstrate that when two parts can speak each other in a new level of language and thinking of about a new era, a dialogue is possible and can make, for example, a new constitution, for example, a new kind of textile products, and a new era. So, less or more, sorry for my surviving English.
No, I think it's very interesting also what you said at the end, no? That for the industrials today, they conceive that pact as being the losers of the pact, and that's also some sad if we want to think that way, because of course it means that if they think about that moment, which is so important for for democracy, is they now see that moment as a losing moment, and that's of course that's really bad, because it's about rights. So Okay, who wants to have some questions? I don't want to be the only one asking. So if you just raise your hand, I will give you the floor. So go on. Irene, you have any question? You haven't said hello before. No questions. Okay. Andy, so let's go, Andy.
So my cat's making an incredible amount of noise, but I mean, it's yeah. I just wanted to kind of say a bit. I really enjoyed as someone living in Bradford in the UK. One of the sort of the wool capitals of the world prior to Italy. It really, a lot of the film really resonated with me, and kind of like thinking about this way you've just described it as like that desire to find, to unearth the hidden gems, the kind of secret histories, the kind of underappreciated narratives of these places. Because I think, I mean, at the time, I suppose Biella has, felt that it's had its peak, and now it's kind of like, it's had that pride of place, and now it's kind of working out what the next era is. So I think the film is incredibly important, just in terms of showing a different side to those kind of cities and those areas that are seen now as kind of sometimes, well, certainly in the UK, is like behind. They were once the leaders, they were once at the kind of cutting edge or even the bleeding edge, and now they're kind of like seen as these left behind cities. But of course, when you start to kind of find an incredible story like that and a person, I think the kind of like the character, the main the worker who was a partisan and starts is the main narrator, is kind of like really gives a completely different value to that place, and it's an incredible sort of history to show. So I mean, thank you for making it and kind of sharing it, and I would love the idea that a lot of other cities or areas were kind of like able to do the same sort of thing, particularly just kind of like around that moment or a particular notion. So really, I mean, I kind of, the parallels for me, I mean, certainly, Bradford was the place where the Independent Labour Party was kind of formed. And it was through, exactly, those kind of hearts of industry were also the hearts of worker resistance and worker organisation and labour power kind of coming together. And so I'm kind of, the kind of the thing, the way you've described it there as a sort of the pact, not between the kind of like the industrialists, the factory owners and the workers, kind of being based around this kind of realization that if you're going to make a good product, you have to have happy workers. Is kind of like there's a long history of that. It's a kind of paternalist kind of take. So I mean, one of the places in Bradford that kind of I used to live in is called Saltaire. I don't know. Do you know Crespi d'Ada?
Yeah.
See. So like Crespi d'Ada and Saltaire are kind of very similar, like these kind of the workers' village created by the factory owner. And Titus Salt, who was one of the first kind of paternalist mill owners to kind of build a village for the workers, he is now held up as, oh, well, wasn't it a humanitarian, incredible thing to do for people? But of course, he just wanted better quality labor. And, there's a whole host of other stuff going on. So, I mean, it's interesting for you to kind of mention this, the way that the reception from the mill or the factory workers today is like, oh, well, it could potentially sort of disrupt, kind of like a way of working. But some of the kind of conversations that we've had with Cerruti and kind of like and the other people, Clara, sorry, I always forget their names. Is it Marche, Fedley, Marche?
Marchi Fildi.
Say it again.
Marchi e Fildi.
Yeah, Marche e Fildi. So they're kind of the sort of the new kind of, or certainly the way they were talking about the production, of course, is in this like high-end manufacturing. We understand that we have to make the best quality products, not the kind of cheapest. But they're also like very aware of their brand, I would say, and their kind of reputation as kind of part of their business strategy. And so the kind of the rights of the workers kind of is I suppose, yeah, are these people that are at the kind of cutting edge or the kind of, you know, the leading kind of edge of production of a product, understanding that the labor and the way that the kind of relationship with the workers still has to be a new thing, a new pact. So the kind of the models that they've been working with are much more collaborative, much more collective. You know, Cerruti, during kind of the pandemic and the lockdown, was saying, oh, well, it was an opportunity for us to kind of talk to our workers in a different way. You know, we kind of created these new forums where it's like, okay, what do we do now? What are your ideas? So I just wondered kind of like, yeah, the kind of the film coming out sort of last year before the lockdown, and kind of like now after the kind of, you know, in the post-pandemic kind of situation we're in now, whether those kind of mill owners will have a different idea about that sort of labor relation, because they seem to be kind of more interested or aware that the future of work is much more based around that kind of collective, collaborative, flat structure than it was previously. So I mean, it's yeah, it's a comment, not a question, but yeah.
Thank you.
I'm also interested in kind of just what the other residents kind of got from the film, or just kind of elements that might maybe just like struck them or resonated with their kind of context, or how it made you feel about Biella.
Ina.
Yeah. First of all, I would really like to thank you. It's a great film, and it gave us like a better image of Biella. I wish we could be there in person and go to all these places. It made me think also of what a revolution means, because I had the feeling that that revolution was working on different layers. On the social justice, like it's very progressive for someone in the 40s to say men and women need to get equal pay, things that we are not, not everywhere are fighting for right now. It's just only words, while then they really worked for it together as a collective, all the workers and all the partisans, and they achieved that goal. And this made me think of how a revolution really should be working on all these different layers, and not only to only one aim, while it should be working on the social aspect and the social justice side of the society. I had a question of the factories now in Biella. Are they all stopped? Like after the 70s, are they not working? Or I had the feeling that they are empty now.
Today in Biella survive only the best production textile, the best quality production. That means that in the past, Biella reached the high levels of production in the 70s. And in the 80s, the global situation getting worse. And in the end of the 80s, just during the Tiananmen Pact, a new order in the world was coming, and this kind of production in Biella, it is getting worse. Then in Biella now there were several industries that still keep the best textile products in the world, but is a small production. And you can see on the right hand the wonderful fabrics. On the left hand, thousands of abandoned places, thousands of skeletons of industrial era. But on the right hand, there is a type of fabrics that is impossible to make in other place. In places, so without certain kind of water, without the experience of the workers, and without the specific culture, of course, without the rights. Because if you pay bad a worker, he can made the best product. He don't want to make the best of his work. It's good. It's right. But if you give the word to your worker, if you made the worker part of a culture, of a community, and also you pay good, then this kind of worker can place in the product some of his soul, of his mind, of his experience, and of experience of his dad, his grandpa, and so on. And this is the secret of the Biella fabrics. The history of the workers that made it, and then that make it.
Yeah, that's great, Manuel. And just to add into that, Zena, so we have done a couple of trips to Cerruti, and had a visit from these kind of new, what would be described in the UK as like high-end manufacturers. So it's kind of like they still exist, but they're specializing in a very particular type of yarn or a particular process that draws on, I guess, the pride of kind of that sort of production in the area, but also the brand of Biella. It's kind of like, it's funny because like Italy, or Piemonte, or kind of like is still recognized as the place of good quality, so they can like work and adapt that into different ways of doing it. But yeah, I think that's a really good point.
For example, Ermenegildo Zegna made a kind of the male fabrics, fabrics for a male suite, that is a long seller. So Zegna product this kind of fabrics, I don't know the name, from the end of the 1930, from the end of the 30s.
The 30s, yes.
The 30s. So 19 years of production, the same product, without particularly differences. It is the same product that was perfect 90 years old, 90 years ago, and it is perfect now. Nobody can imitate. And today, man with the suit can bring with us the history of almost 100 years of work on textile culture and textile products.
So I will ask Giulia. She has a question, and then Ginevra, and then Stefano.
I would like to know more about also the organizational part of this movie, in terms of if it was difficult to get funding to realize it, or like really engage people toward its realization. So from a point of view of the partnership, let's say, but also from the point of view of the people that we can see in the video and so on.
Yes. At the beginning, sure, we tried to pitch our documentary in a different place, with different people, in different context, in different production context. And the answers was almost the same. First, Italian resistance is not a TV theme, a TV format. Second, we don't know Biella. Who who knows Biella? Where is Biella? Why Biella is the capital of the quality textile production in the world? And when we answer to this question, sure, we are the first that we want to say that Biella, it is the capital of textile production in the world. The producer says to us, we still don't know that. If we already know, maybe, but if we don't know that. And the question is, the global question is, who have to start to talk about? We want to start to talk about this question. But we was beginners, we was nothing. We was talented people, we was very passionate people, but we come from Biella. A real handicap of Biella, still now it is that it is hidden by the mountains, and people is the most most timid people in the world. This was the production reaction. So we have decided to make the film ourselves. We started to launch a type of fundraising with the social labor organization in the Biellese that give us a help to rise 10 years here, 10 years, 10 euros there. So we put together a small budget. We won MIBACT, the fund. MIBACT is the Italian national kind of fund for documentary and cinema. And we was able to make this documentary with 50.000, 500,000 euros. That was less than a half that we need, but for us was important to put the first stone, the first brick in a new kind of house for communicate the Biellese. We tried to speak about our film with the Biella industrials, but they was if we can made a real promotion of all the industrial managers, industrial brand in Biella. This is a film about the textile production, not the one brand production. And it was not possible to raise money from the Biella industries. But we have raised money from the son of the workers, from the actually living parents, living son and living people that in the past have daddies or grandpas employed in this industry. This is an extraordinary fact. Was very important to us to give the energy to make this film, first of all, for these people, for the workers that 17 years old struggle for the labor rights. And yes, so is an independent documentary, as like an independent documentary like every independent documentary, has suffered by a lack of distribution, lack of national distribution, because at that level there was and there is a high number of marketing element, or high number of context involved, and we can not to afford this kind of context. So the film has a little distribution in a small context, for example, partisan association context in all the North Italy, a small group of festivals around the world, and stop. Because the film is not a linear narrative, has not a linear narrative. Maybe we was wrong, but we have thought about the film like a textile product with trama e ordito. The kind of when you made a textile product, you have the vertical, come si può dire, fili.
The waft and the weft, I think.
Okay. So the vertical structure is the was our protagonist, Argante the partisan, Cerruti the manager, Sara the writer, and the stylist, the fashion designer, that explore the Biellese not only in the significant place of the struggle for labors or the textile production, but also in the time from past to now. And this kind of structure is not linear, is not easy to know about a supposed television audience. This was our first handicap. Various people say to us, please simplify, please cut off this character, please shut up about resistance. Cut off, shut up, give away, and our film was disappearing. And no, we have said no, we have a sort of duty to the Biellese, and the extraordinary historical fact about equal wage is not promotion, not a promo, a TV promo, is actually now a dramatic reality. Until now, the difference of the wages is globally intended about 15–16%, men and women. So this is not a structure that is possible to simplify. This is the history, but we can make a historical documentary because there's no materials, there's nothing more left, and so this is more or less the production statement where we can afford at the beginning.
That's great, Manuele. And so kind of, I mean, basically, yeah, the kind of fact that you had to make it more independent at least made that you could make the film that you wanted to make. And so was it Ginevra who had a question next?
Yes, thank you very much. So yeah, basically I was interested, I really want to say that I particularly appreciated some conversation, and one links, it can be linked to what you were previously saying about Zegna and the innovation and being what you are for 90 years. I really liked what the entrepreneur Cerruti was saying, that he says, I'm quoting him, in our culture it's primarily seen as a consumer product, in other cultures it's considered maximum artistic expression. And what is really hard is to make things different things which actually work. Simply making different things is not difficult, but the difficulty is to create something that conveys a meaningful message to people. And I really liked this part, so I wanted to bring it to the table. And yeah, actually my question was not so distant from that of Julia. I was interested in the involvement of the different people.
Yes.
How have you chosen these people? I mean, I think the partisan is a great testimony of the history. So, and but for the others, like the fashion designer, were
Yes.
your acquaintance, or like how did that work?
Argante is actually the last one. He is the last one partisan still living. That was a optical testimony, optical. It was a comandante, captain. It was a captain of the brigade, and it was 22. So when we reach in his house, he starts speaking. It was without cameras. We are there to know and to say to Argante, do you want to be a part of our documentary? And Argante starts speaking without kind of interruption, without, it was a sort of a book that needs to be open to the world.
Yeah, his mental clarity was impressive, also because he's in his 90s, so it's really incredible.
If you mind, when he speak in the various village, when he speaks, you can see what is is saying. You can see the partisan, you can see the snow, you can see the dead body on the street. You can see it is an extraordinary person. Then Christian Pellizzari, the fashion designer, is the one of the few fashion designers that use all the most important fashion design in the world use Biella fabrics. Okay, few of them say in public, yes, I use Biella fabrics, because the biggest fashion designer have to keep all the attention on day. If you say my fabrics come from Biella, it's a way to lower your talent for the biggest. But Pellizzari think that is a point of important for him to say to the world, yes, I use Biellese fabrics. And we met him because we want to know the fool that say this kind of things to the world. And he was very kindly, very interested to the film. It was young, and it is young. And yes, it was a fan of the film. Sara Conforti, an old friend of Città dell'Arte, it is a fabrics researcher, culture researcher that investigate the relationship between fabrics and private life, fabrics and memories, fabrics and labor rights. So we think that she was the perfect person to show to Christian de Biellese, to say to us which is the situation of the Biellese in that period, and so on. And Cerruti, it is a living memory of the history of a textile product in Biella. When he started to make culture around the textile fabrics at the end of the 15th, first of the era of the media, before the era of the media. He was the first entrepreneur that make himself addresses, the first one. So he can link the entrepreneur and the communication, the marketing. And it is an observatory very important about which is the common sense about dresses, about haute couture. And the historian, the Carlo della Valle, that it is the president of the National Historical Association, and he is the only that speak about history in an academic way, and he speak in a language, and Argante speak the language of the witness, and so there is a magic dialogues that born about their friendship.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stefano?
Hi all. I hope you can hear me well, because I have a very poor connection, but in case my voice should go away, please tell me, and I will write my question in the chat. So feel free to interrupt me whenever you don't hear. I was thinking about, I saw the film, and I think it does a very important important thing, that is telling a story, which is a precious story that needs to be narrated in order to kind of surviving its own actors, you know, so to be made available for next generations and for us. But at the same time, I feel like the narration, the movie works a bit as a kind of reconciliation device, you know, about issues like workers' rights, class struggle, and so on. And I think rather that today we should raise conflict around these issues, about them. We do need to struggle and not to reconciliate. So as I feel that many we are still far from ideal conditions of, for example, wage conditions or workers' rights. So I feel it could be a bit problematic in this way. I don't know, Manuele, what do you think about it if you have dealt with it?
Sure. The history of capitalism is a sort of never-ending ascension to a always higher level of capital. And then the history is a never-ending story about the struggles between the parts in a same game. But we have decided to stop when the jacket made by Christian, inspired by Argante story, when this jacket is dressed by Argante on his mountains, the same mountains when 70 years old he hidden himself by the Nazis. This is the stop frame that we want for the film, because for us it was important to leave to the people one message. In a point of the world, in a point of the story, the two counterparts keep talking. It was a point, we know. The first and at the end of the war, this kind of rights were erased by the new social structure, but it was possible, and it is a message. Sure, the situation now is really complex. For a certain point of view, is getting worse. But for us, it was important to leave a message to the people, not a element of revolution, not polemic statements, nor a I can say the message was bring to the people in an emotional way, to fix it in the hearts and in the minds of the people. It's not a call to action, but it's a call to think about this. Sure, we also planned a sort of second part of the documentary about what happened in the 50s, about the restoration of the ancient regime. But if we have difficult, if we have many difficult to make the first documentary, I can leave you to imagine which kind of difficult we can find to try to product this kind of second part of the documentary. It was about the entrepreneur that erase the rights to the people. Yes, we're still waiting for for energy, for funds about it.
Thanks for that, Manuel. And a very good question as well, Stefano. I mean, I kind of feel like to sort of pull up the element of the kind of the reconciliation is a really good point, because that bit in the film also struck me where, yeah, I suppose the kind of the making of the shirt is kind of like some elements to sort of pull these things together, but actually the interesting bit is the character from the partisan resistance who reminds Cerruti that we were on two different sides at the end. I thought that was a really nice moment. Alice?
Hey, hi. So not sure if it's a question or a question that will rise up from some thoughts I had. Also, thanks Ginevra for the conversation you point out, because I think it's really interesting, but it's also interesting what you, Andy, were saying about the jacket and also Manuele. So maybe it's a little bit problematic to talk about it, but I'd like to try. And so I will try to do that directly in English. If it's not clear, I will just go back to the Italian for a short time to be more precise in what I want to say. So one of the first thoughts I had is what I meant in the chat. So how to deal with historic appropriation from the fashion industry. I mean, it's really nice, and I loved that they gave to the partisan the jacket, but then the jacket is in production, and people that goes in a shop and buy a jacket that looks like a military jacket don't really, sorry for the expression, give. Okay, that's kind of expression to what's behind the jacket. In terms of ethics, in terms of path, and so process of the creation, in terms of the creation itself. So this is a reality we have to face. And also Marchi e Fildi told us that one of the problems is to bring back young generation to think about the production process as a treasure for the territory, and not only, you know, something that you go in a shop and you find as a final product, but there's a history behind it. So I'm really critical on the fashion industry, because I know that, and I agree that, that what was meant also in the movie, that the clothes are some kind of a social process and social transformation of events, and well, they show the transformation of a society. And if we think about the fashion history, we can look at it, and we can look at our history, and we can find connection, but at the same time they are products, so they're meant to be on sale. And so that's maybe a reflection and a thought about the jacket, which is a beautiful, beautiful shot. You know, the jacket, he wear the jacket, but the face of the partisan itself show, I think, what I'm saying. You know, he put on the jacket and he said, well, yeah, nice. He's, I mean, I felt he was not embarrassed, but he didn't really know what to say about it. Like, yeah, nice. It's a nice gift. Thank you. But at the same time, he's inspired to something that, for him was his life, to fight for freedom. So, and when the designer said, yeah, I made that for my collection, that's just, put down everything I was really enjoying. Like, okay, that's the same things going on forever. A designer that just, even if it's super ethical, he comes, he finds something, he really loves it, and he just put it in the market. So this is something, I don't know. And the other thing is a personal question about going back to what Julia asked about more the process of the making on, and which is also an ethical question for you as a director. How you deal with, with the movie that it's done also with public funds, because MIBACT, it's not only for cinema, but it's the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, so it covers also contemporary art. So it's a question for you, but it's a thought also for ourselves as artists today. How you deal with the movie with public funds and private funds, I suppose, that talks about historical events, but then it also talks about brands. And actually, two of the protagonists, Cerruti and Pellizzari, they do have their own private businesses. So it's true that the movie talks about social issues and historical events, which are important for the society, but it also gives them a big advertising actually. So if you have thought about it and how you deal with that. Thank you. Sorry, I thought to not be too much rude or.
No. It's a very interesting question about ethical boundaries in
Yes,
which,
exactly. Thank you.
like content creators, we have to move. First of all, at the time, 4 or 5 years ago, Christian was an emerging talent without a very mm, mm, strong brand. And sure, he was looking for a new commercial situation, a new developing of his business, sure. But we put more attention to his virginity, his freshness about Biellese, about story. He knows nothing about partisans, resistance, and so on. We talk about that to him, to try to involve in a new level of awareness about his work, his role in the society. So we can say we put attention to this aspect, and I think we are awareness of that, aware of that, but which is important for us was the look of Christian to the history of fabrics. Sure, then he learned something, I think, and he put in his production this level, his level of of awareness. Everyone has his different level of self-awareness about his own activity, and we think we put attention on that. And sure, the MIBACT fund is a public fund and so on. And Cerruti is a well-known global brand. Everyone knows about it. But Cerruti is in the film like a father for Christian. Not like a brand for the society. Sure, you can talk about that along, and you always are right about this kind of risk, and we know there was a risk, but for us the role of Argante that keep the past in his hand to bring to us now. The role of Argante is the most important role that teach something to the audience. And Argante is actually a free man that bring us a message. Argante is the past. Christian and Sarah is the future. Maybe we hope we have left something in the heart of Sarah, in the heart of Christian about the past. So we try to put something of the past in the mind of the young generation. Sure, the young generation only knows the Christian word, the Pellizzari word, and not the partisan word, the Argante word. But in a certain way, we have put together these two words, starting talking, and we stopped at and it's a precise moment when the message is iconic, is the message become a universal language. All you can say after is a matter of a new film. It would be a matter for a new film.
That's great, Manuel, and a really excellent question to bring up as well, Alice. Thanks for doing that. I think it's like, I think the sort of, yeah, the discussions around the ethics and that particular moment and the kind of relationship between the kind of, yeah, the fashion and the resistance bit is, I guess, key to the film, and the fact that there's like some awkwardness in that, I think, is kind of what makes it interesting viewing as well. But as you say, kind of loads of different directions that could be followed up in. I'm just realizing that, yeah, we're kind of probably thinking about wanting to wrap up in the next sort of like 5 or 10 minutes, but Marilu had a small question according to the chat.
Yes, for me, it's just a very small question. One remark, I also liked very much the scene where the jacket was put out the box midst of the workers. It was really very, very beautiful moment in the film. But I have one small question. The event of 1943 with the struggle about the wages and so, was it still common knowledge in Italy, or is it something that you made back alive? Do I express myself?
Yeah, how well known is that story about the pact, Manuel?
Completely vanishing.
Yes, okay.
Also starting to Biellese people. At the end of one of the projection, a young people, a student, stand up and says to us, "Why we don't know about it?" Yes, you're right. Why the school? The school teach nothing about this extraordinary social fact. And so if we in the 2018 have to know that our documentary was the first time that start talking about this fact after 70 years old, 70 years, it says a lot about how work is still to do. And just I like to say one thing about the real jacket putting out of the box. Many colleagues of mine are usually to say in a documentary, well, now we do that and we have to do in that way, like a fiction work. In that way, in that moment, we for real present to Christian this closed box. Nobody, nor Christian, nothing says about what was in the box. Just every single second of this scene is real. Christian, maybe for the first time in his life, discover a real war jacket. It is an educational statement for us. So, like a content creator, a documentarist, we can put new ideas on the mind of the people. In the documentary, we have put a new horizon in the mind of a fashion designer, talented, young, but ignorant about the past. Like a content creator about documentary, we have to do the same thing in a very tender way, in a sort of a poetry way. For us, poetry language is the language that can keep human, can keep save the relationship, It can keep heart beating in a synchronicity.
Thanks, Manuel, and thanks, Mauro, as well. It was, yeah, a very good point on the sort of, yeah, again, on that sort of moment and how well known that history is. And I just also wanted a bit of a clarification, because in the credits at the end, was it repealed, that rule, the kind of pact, the equal pay? Was it only for a few years? Is that right?
Sorry, I don't understand. Can you repeat?
So in the credits for the film, there's a little note that says, actually, after 2 or 3 years, the equal pay was reversed.
Yes, yes. In the 25 July of 1945, Italy was free by partisan, by an Anglo alliance. And in the maybe 29 of April or 30 April, in the municipality of Biella, the Mountain Pact was signed by new mayor of the free town and the entrepreneur. It was an official signature. In the 1949, slowly the pact was forgotten. With the silence of the social labor association, and also in a silent way, the entrepreneur returned to the ancient way to keep the relationship between laborers with workers and capital. Because for a very numerous facts, first of all, the reconstruction of Italy, then the different market situation, then the USA lobbying to the NATO states, and because it was necessary to feed the industry. Sure, the workers pay this reconstruction of Italy with our work, with our rights. Only at the beginning of the 60s, the situation is the equal wage was replaced. But were 50 years of forgotten rights. And in the 1961, always in Biella, a famous rights civil act will replace the right at the right place. There is the second event in Biella, first in Europe, first 1944, second 1961. This was the starting point for the second documentary. Maybe we'll see it one day or another.
Yeah, it'd be great to see that. And I also so it's interesting that, yeah, it's happened twice then, essentially. The pact's been made or like, yeah, brought in, but also the questions around the kind of, yeah, how such pacts are kind of enforced, or kind of, you know, also like beyond just sort of gestures, is an interesting thing in the film. And I also yeah, just another comment that, or a bit that really struck me, particularly about watching it now, is just, yeah, that the partisan talking about the kind of solidarity between the working class and the kind of anti-fascist movement, and kind of thinking now in today's kind of culture, particularly in the UK, it is the post-industrial old textiles towns where there is the kind of, you know, the populist kind of like the white working class rising, that is, you know, seen as a more right-wing, less progressive kind of movement. So it's really a very important reminder, I think, you know, through the film, just to say, well, actually, yes, it was the kind of the workers' movements, the kind of people from those places were initially, you know, kind of the more progressive sort of take, because the parallels that could be drawn now going to those kind of post-industrial towns and trying to get a sense of the political climate and the kind of understand, you know, their takes on fascist ideology would be sort of quite an interesting comparison as well. Juan, I don't know if you want to kind of say anything before we kind of think about wrapping up, because I think people are just having to sort of peel off now a little bit.
No, well, I don't have any other remarks. I just would like to thank Manuele for, you know, the time, for, you know, sharing all this conversation with us. I think there is a very interesting parallel conversation happening in the chat also about cultural appropriation, which is something very interesting, of course, to speak about at some point. So it would be nice if you, Sina and Alice, if you continue that conversation, if you maybe bring some of it back to the group at some point. And well, from my point, just thank you, Emanuele, and thank you, everyone.
Good luck,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
If you want, Juan, you can give my email to anyone who can ask about it, and I try to answer any question by mail.
Of course. Thank you very much. Yes, if they have more, you know, questions or want to, you know, somehow to ask you some more details, yeah, for sure, we will share your contact. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks to everyone for the really great comments and questions as well. I think
Thank you so much. See you.
Oh, perfect.
Ciao.
See you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Grazie
Ciao.
a tutti.
Ciao.